Veteran riders are walking away from 7 major motorcycle brands, and now dealerships are practically giving bikes away just to clear inventory. I am talking 40 to 60% off manufacturer suggested retail price on machines that used to have waiting lists. What is driving experienced bikers to abandon brands they have trusted for decades? It is not just poor quality anymore. These manufacturers made choices that betrayed their core riders. For years, they told us these bikes were built for the road, engineered for performance, and designed to last. The reality is planned obsolescence, cheap plastic parts, and features that fail when you need them most. In this video, I will expose exactly why seasoned riders refuse to buy from these brands, and reveal which models you can snag for pennies on the dollar. But stick around until the end, because the last brand on this list just recalled 180,000 bikes for a defect so dangerous it could kill you mid-ride. Number 7. Harley-Davidson. The iconic American brand that built motorcycle culture as we know it is experiencing something unthinkable: mass desertion by its most loyal customers. Lifelong Harley riders are abandoning their heavyweight cruisers for lighter touring and adventure bikes from competitors. This shift would have been unimaginable just 5 years ago, when owning a Harley was not just about transportation, it was a lifestyle, an identity. Walk into any Harley dealership today and you will see the evidence. Showrooms that once had waiting lists now have rows of unsold bikes collecting dust. Dealers are slashing prices by unprecedented margins just to move iron off the floor. I have personally witnessed discounts of 30 to 40% on brand new models, something that would have been sacrilege during Harley's golden era. What sparked this loyalty crisis? Harley's desperate chase for younger riders has backfired spectacularly. The company that built its reputation on chrome-laden V-twins and rebellious American spirit started churning out electric models and smaller displacement engines to attract millennials. The result? They have alienated their core demographic of veteran riders without successfully capturing the youth market they coveted. The statistics tell the story. Harley's market share among riders over 50, traditionally their bread and butter, has declined nearly 18% in the last 3 years alone. These are not just casual riders. These are die-hard enthusiasts who once had Harley logos tattooed on their bodies. Now they are trading in their road glides for BMW adventure tours and Indian cruisers. I spoke with Tom, a 68-year-old rider who owns 7 Harleys over 4 decades. His words cut to the heart of the issue. Tom said that Harley forgot who brought them to the dance. They spent so much time chasing kids who buy motorcycles like fashion accessories that they ignored the people who ride through rain, snow, and hell to support the brand. My last Harley spent more time in the shop than on the road. Never again. The real cost of this betrayal goes beyond individual sales. When veteran riders like Tom walk away, they take entire riding communities with them. These are the club presidents, the ride organizers, the mentors who introduce new blood to the lifestyle. When they leave, the ripple effects devastate dealer networks across entire regions. Harley-Davidson built American motorcycle culture through generational loyalty. Sons rode what their fathers rode. That chain is now broken, and the consequences will echo for decades. While Indian Motorcycles proudly promotes its heritage as America's first motorcycle company, the reality behind dealership doors tells a different story. The revived brand that promised to challenge Harley's dominance is facing a crisis of its own, one that dealers are desperately trying to hide from public view. Across the country, Indian dealerships are quietly running deep promotional events to clear unsold cruisers. These are not being advertised nationally because admitting to inventory problems would damage the premium brand image Indian has worked so hard to cultivate. Instead, these silent sales happen through direct outreach to existing customers and word-of-mouth marketing. The disconnect between hype and reality has become impossible to ignore. When Polaris resurrected the Indian brand, initial excitement generated waiting lists and premium pricing. That honeymoon period has ended abruptly. Premium touring models like the Roadmaster, with price tags exceeding $30,000, now sit unsold for months while salespeople offer increasingly desperate deals to move them. Rural riders in particular have abandoned Indian in significant numbers. The reason is high maintenance costs combined with limited parts availability outside major metropolitan areas. When your nearest dealer is 200 miles away, and a simple service requires proprietary diagnostic equipment, ownership becomes a liability rather than a pleasure. I recently visited 3 Indian dealerships across the Midwest, and each told the same story. Inventories that should turn over every 60 to 90 days are now stagnating for 8 to 12 months. One dealer in Oklahoma confided that they are offering financing deals that barely cover their costs. They are just trying to free up capital tied up in unsold inventory. Perhaps Indian's biggest challenge is what industry insiders call the loyalty gap. Unlike Harley-Davidson, which built generational brand loyalty over a century, the revived Indian never established the emotional connection needed to weather market downturns. When economic conditions tighten or trends shift, riders without deep brand attachment quickly look elsewhere. Mark, a dealer principal in Texas, put it bluntly. Indian built beautiful bikes that check all the technical boxes, but they never built a tribe. When times get tough, people stick with what's in their heart, not what's technically superior. That's where we're losing. Triumph, the British motorcycle manufacturer, rode a wave of retro enthusiasm and adventure bike popularity to record sales over the past decade. That wave has crashed, and the receding tide reveals serious problems that veteran riders recognized long before dealers would admit them. The clearest indicator of Triumph's market cooldown is the trade-in drought. Dealerships report significantly fewer riders trading up to newer Triumph models, a sign that owners are either keeping their current bikes longer or switching brands entirely when upgrade time comes. This pattern contradicts Triumph's narrative of strong brand loyalty and indicates deeper dissatisfaction among experienced riders. Financing desperation has become the new normal for Triumph dealers. Zero-interest loans, extended terms up to 84 months, and deferred payment options have become standard offerings, not special promotions. These financing incentives represent a last-ditch effort to stimulate showroom traffic when the products themselves fail to generate excitement. Competition has eaten away at Triumph's once secure market position. Adventure and retro riders, Triumph's core segments, now have compelling alternatives from Japanese and even Chinese manufacturers offering similar performance at lower price points. The Bonneville TU-Momenti that once dominated the modern classic segment now competes with the Kawasaki Z900 RS, which many veterans consider more reliable at a lower price point. Service and parts issues have driven away veteran riders who remember when Triumph was rebuilding its reputation for reliability. Limited dealer networks mean some owners must travel hundreds of miles for warranty service. When parts need to be shipped from the UK, repairs that should take days often stretch into weeks. Perhaps most damaging to Triumph's standing among experienced riders is what many call the authenticity question. While vintage Triumph motorcycles represented genuine British engineering and character, today's mass-produced models, many with components sourced globally, strike veterans as trying too hard to capitalize on nostalgia without delivering the soul of the original machines. Martin, who has ridden motorcycles for over 40 years and owned 3 modern Triumphs, expressed the sentiment I heard repeatedly. These new Triumphs are like movie props. They look the part, but lack the substance. My 1972 Bonneville leaked oil and vibrated like hell, but it felt alive. These new bikes are too sanitized, too corporate. The old British motorcycle industry died decades ago. These are just expensive costumes wearing its name. Number 4. BMW. BMW Motorrad built its reputation on reliable, functional machines that could cross continents without drama. Today's reality reveals a brand suffering from luxury bike fatigue, a crisis where premium pricing meets diminishing returns and cooling demand. The price versus value equation has reached a breaking point for many veteran riders. Models like the R1250 GS Adventure now approach $25,000 before adding essential accessories. Meanwhile, the performance and capability gap between these premium machines and their much less expensive competitors has narrowed dramatically. Experienced riders increasingly question why they should pay BMW's premium, when comparable alternatives cost significantly less. A particularly troubling trend for BMW dealers is direct competition between used and new inventory. Late-model used BMWs with low mileage now sell for 40 to 50% below new model prices. creating a situation where discounted new stock struggles to compete with certified pre-owned bikes on the same showroom floor. This cannibalization undermines new bike sales, while simultaneously eroding resale values, a death spiral for premium positioning. The technology complexity backlash has been especially pronounced among veteran riders. Motorcyclists who remember when they could maintain their own machines express frustration with BMW's increasingly complex electronic systems that require specialized diagnostic equipment and dealer service. Simple tasks that once took minutes in a home garage now require expensive dealer visits. Service cost shock has driven away many long-term BMW owners. Regular maintenance intervals on modern BMW motorcycles often run $400 to $800, with major services exceeding $1,500. These costs might be acceptable for occasional weekend riders, but for serious touring enthusiasts who log 15,000 plus miles annually, the financial burden becomes prohibitive. Perhaps most damaging to BMW's standing is the erosion of its legendary reliability reputation. Despite commanding premium prices, many veteran riders report more problems with modern BMWs than with their Japanese counterparts. Complex electronic systems fail in remote locations, leaving riders stranded despite paying top dollar for supposedly bulletproof German engineering. James, a 25-year BMW owner who recently switched to Yamaha, summarized the sentiment I heard repeatedly. He said BMW used to build tools for serious riders, machines that prioritize function over form. Today they build status symbols for wealthy dentists who ride twice a year. The bikes look impressive in the garage, but leave you stranded in the mountains. I paid less than half for my Yamaha, and it has not seen a shop in 30,000 miles. That is value. Number 3. Ducati. The Italian brand known for passion, performance, and distinctive L-twin engine notes is facing a crisis among a critical demographic: returning riders. These enthusiasts, who stepped away from motorcycling for career or family reasons, once dreamed of eventually owning a Ducati. Now that they have the means, many are walking away, shocked by the true cost of Ducati ownership. The return rider problem has hit Ducati particularly hard. Motorcyclists re-entering the sport after years away often arrive at dealerships with Ducati posters still hanging in their garages, only to leave with Japanese or American alternatives after calculating the real financial commitment of Italian ownership. This pattern has accelerated as maintenance costs continue rising while competitive options improve. Dealer damage control tactics reveal the severity of the situation. Several dealerships have begun quietly bundling warranty extensions and maintenance packages into purchase prices, not as added value, but as necessary insurance against cost anxiety. These additions further inflate already premium prices, undermining Ducati's competitiveness in a crowded market. The used market tells its own story about Ducati's challenges. Major metropolitan areas now see unusual supplies of used Ducati Monsters, Multistradas, and Panigalas as owners dump bikes they cannot afford to maintain. The pattern is consistent across forums and classified listings, owners reluctantly selling bikes they love because maintenance costs became unsustainable. That maintenance reality hits hardest among veteran riders who understand the long-term commitment. Service costs for Ducati ownership regularly exceed $1,500 for bikes ridden just a few thousand miles per year, an expense that becomes harder to justify for recreational vehicles. The valve adjustment intervals, which require extensive labor hours, particularly discourage high-mileage riders. The fundamental question veteran riders increasingly ask is whether Ducati's performance advantages justify the practical sacrifices. While Ducatis deliver exceptional handling and character, experienced riders question paying premium prices for motorcycles that spend significant time in service departments rather than on the road. Anthony, who owned Ducatis for 15 years before recently switching to a Kawasaki, explained that he loved his Ducatis. They had soul, personality, and made every ride special. But the ownership experience eventually wore him down. Every check engine light meant a $1,200 dealer visit. Every major service required leaving the bike for weeks due to parts delays. He finally realized he was spending more time looking at his Ducati in the garage than riding it. His Kawasaki is not as exciting, but it has never let him down, and he has saved enough on maintenance to take 3 extra riding vacations. That is the real value equation. Zero Motorcycles was the California-based electric motorcycle pioneer, and once represented the future of two-wheeled transportation. Today, that electric dream is fizzling among the demographic that should be its primary customer base: experienced, affluent riders with the means to afford premium electric vehicles. Range anxiety is not just a theoretical concern, it is the primary reason veterans reject Zero's products. Experienced riders who regularly embark on 300-plus mile days find Zero's practical range of 70 to 120 miles fundamentally incompatible with their riding style. When you combine that with charging infrastructure limitations and charging times that turn lunch stops into extended waits, the compromises become too significant. Dealer demonstration desperation has become increasingly evident. Several Zero dealers have pivoted to demo-based promotion strategies, offering extended test rides to overcome initial skepticism. The problem is these demos often confirm veterans' worst fears about electric motorcycles rather than alleviating them. After experiencing mid-ride range anxiety and power limitations as batteries deplete, many testers walk away convinced that electric technology remains premature for serious riders. The depreciation challenge represents perhaps Zero's most significant problem in attracting experienced riders who understand motorcycle economics. First-generation Zero motorcycles have lost as much as 70% of their value within 5 years, a depreciation curve that makes them perhaps the worst financial investment in motorcycling. Even current models show value retention significantly below comparable internal combustion alternatives. Infrastructure problems continue plaguing Zero's appeal outside urban environments. The charging network remains spotty in rural areas where many veteran riders live and tour, making electric bikes impractical for the very people with the financial means to afford them. Unlike Tesla, which built its own charging infrastructure, Zero relies on a patchwork of third-party chargers that vary in reliability and availability. Perhaps most damaging to Zero's prospects among traditional riders is what many call the soul factor. Motorcycling has always been a multisensory experience. The rumble of exhaust, the mechanical connection between rider and machine, the distinctive character of different engine configurations. Electric motorcycles, despite their impressive acceleration, strike many veterans as sterile appliances rather than passionate machines. Richard, who test-rode every Zero model before purchasing a traditional motorcycle, expressed what I heard consistently. He said he wanted to love electric. He believes it is the future, and he was prepared to adapt his riding style. But after extensive demos, he realized electric motorcycles solve problems he does not have, while creating new problems he cannot accept. They are quick and quiet, but they lack the character that makes motorcycling special. When you eliminate the sounds, smells, and mechanical soul of a motorcycle, what remains feels more like an exercise machine than a passion. Number 1. Suzuki. Once a dominant force in multiple motorcycle segments, Suzuki has experienced what industry insiders call the invisible slide, a gradual decline in relevance, excitement, and market position that has accelerated to crisis levels. Veteran riders are abandoning the brand that gave us legends like the GSX-R and Hayabusa, and the reasons reveal a cautionary tale about complacency. Refresh cycle failure represents Suzuki's most obvious problem. While competitors update their lineups every 3 to 5 years with significant technology and design improvements, several Suzuki models have remained essentially unchanged for over a decade. The Hayabusa went 13 years without a major update. The V-Strom 650, once category-defining, became increasingly outdated as competitors introduced multiple generations of improvements. This stagnation has dulled Suzuki's showroom appeal to the point where even loyal customers struggle to justify new purchases. Bundling desperation tactics have become standard practice at Suzuki dealerships nationwide. Free gear, accessory packages, and extended warranties, normally reserved for slow-moving models, are now attached to virtually every Suzuki motorcycle. These incentives represent a tacit admission that the products themselves no longer generate sufficient interest without artificial sweeteners. The value perception problem has particularly hurt Suzuki among veteran riders who remember when the brand represented the pinnacle of performance per dollar. Today, many experienced riders view Kawasaki and Yamaha as offering stronger long-term value, considering Suzuki outdated and increasingly unreliable. This perception shift represents a devastating reversal for a brand that once defined affordable excellence. But nothing has damaged Suzuki's standing among safety-conscious veteran riders more than recent recall nightmares. The company recently announced a recall affecting approximately 180,000 motorcycles for a defect so dangerous it could cause catastrophic failure at highway speeds. The affected component, a BrakeMaster cylinder, could leak fluid onto the front tire without warning, potentially causing instant loss of control. This recall follows several others involving critical systems, undermining confidence in Suzuki's engineering and quality control. Dealer network decline compounds these problems, making parts and service increasingly difficult to access, especially in rural areas where many veteran riders live. Several major metropolitan areas that once supported multiple Suzuki dealerships now have only one or none, forcing owners to travel substantial distances for warranty service or specialized parts. William, a 30-year Suzuki owner who recently switched brands after owning 6 consecutive GSX-Rs, captured the sentiment perfectly. He said, "Suzuki stopped trying. They are selling 2010 technology in 2026 and expecting loyalty based on nostalgia. Meanwhile, their quality has declined while everyone else has improved. My last Suzuki spent 3 months at the dealer waiting for recall parts. When they finally fixed it, I traded it immediately. I love Suzuki, but they stopped loving their customers years ago." These 7 brands didn't just lose sales. They betrayed riders who spent decades building their reputations. When veterans walk away from brands they once tattooed on their bodies, that is not market fluctuation. It is brand suicide. Their desperation is your opportunity for incredible deals. But remember, cheap does not mean good value. Your life depends on what is between your legs, not the discount you got. The motorcycle industry is changing forever. These brands either adapt or die. Do you agree with this assessment? Who falls next? Subscribe now because what is coming will change how you ride forever.